Okay, people. I think it's like September going into the 9th. I think today's the 8th. Anyway, I'm in here. I've been going like all day. All day. From like 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock this morning. And it's going on midnight. It's like the good old days. Anyway, I'm just, before I go to sleep here, because I'm pretty tired, I'm just sorting this stuff out. This all has to do with the birth of Amari. Right? This is when they took Andre. This is the social worker report in here, wherever it is. That's where the cop went. And he went into the file, people, and ShaMay's file was like this. And when he went to it, he went like really fast. And he found it like really fast. He knew what he was looking for. Okay? Because he had already went through it. And he pulled out one of these things. But this was when ShaMay died. Where is it? Do you see? Admitted. Discharged. Do you see how they discharged her, people? On the 16th. How does that work when she wasn't discharged? Anyway, just as I'm going through this, I just found it odd that this one should be here. And then I looked in here, right? Because I'm going to do another section, because when she died, that has its own book somewhere in here. Like, it's huge. Where this one was when Andre was taken. Right? So, anyway. And then there's this one. So what I'll do here, even though I'm really, really tired, I'm going to read it to you. And keep it short. Now, I've been going all day, people. And I did not get very much sleep yesterday. Because I got up at like 5 in the morning. And then I went right up until about, oh my God, I don't know, 12, 1 o'clock, maybe 2. And then for whatever reason, I woke up at 6, 6:30. And I've been going ever since. And like, I've been going hard today. Right? Just cleaning, sorting out shit. I'm having to raise a family all over again. Right? Do all this work by myself, basically. Mari was constipated today. That was a chore and a half. Okay, first I'm going to read the one where she was 17 years old. It's just a small little thing. But it says everything in a nutshell. And when the cop came to tell us that was it, case closed, it was a suicide, because he went into ShaMay's medical records and he pulled out the social worker's report for this time period, and he pointed on the paper. When I find it, I'll read it to you then, right? I'm not looking for it right now. And, what do you call it? He tried to say it was a suicide. And I said, you're nuts. So he left. And then I told Tisha. So she ended up phoning him and ragging on him on the phone. Then he tried to say, oh, that's not what I meant. It was an accident. Fucking, like, they play games with you people. My kids they didn't do anything to warrant to be treated the way they were treated, people. Okay? And because the union sector has to feed itself by creating employment and dysfunction in communities so that they can justify their ministry in terms of child protection, right? They went after Andre. And this is the result for this time period. Go into my videos. It's documented, people. Okay, so this was written on date of service. Oh my God. It says 090313. It doesn't tell you. So we can assume, yeah, it would be January, February, March. So this was in March, the 3rd month, on the 9th day of 2013. Okay, this was January, February, March. Almost 3 months from the time they took Andre. Right? And what happened was, I don't know, ShaMay was having a panic attack. I don't know if I took her to the hospital or if she got taken to the hospital by an ambulance. I can't remember. I think I was with her. Because the doctor prescribed her drug. I actually have the prescription, and now that I'm thinking about it, I should find it, because she never filled it, right? And some psychotic drug. That was the doctor's medicine. Anyway, on arrival, patient was crying and upset. And her mom and sister have been primary caregiver for her sister's nephew, for Sierra's son. Social services took nephew in January. Patient has had rough time. Today, social services came by to serve family for custody. Patient then got very upset, had anxiety attack. Patient stated feels like killing herself. So it wasn't that severe because the psychiatrist, youth psychiatrist or doctor or whatever, just gave ShaMay a prescription, which I did see it, but I don't know where I put it. So I'm going to have to hunt for that. And then there's a written social worker thing around it, right? Or doctor thing or whatever. That the cop fucking pulled out of all those papers. It was like 2 or 3 papers long. And he pointed just like this. I'll keep this short. I'm just going to read this one. There's more. There's two of them there, but I'll read this one first. And, it says right here, she was depressed. She wanted to kill herself when she was 17 in 2013. I know it's 2018, but it doesn't matter. She was depressed. It was suicide, Miss Chorney. Just shows you how much these people hate us, right? This is a discharge summary, people. Where does it say that? Right there. Do you see that? Where's the date? There's the date. They got her listed down, time of death, on the 19th. Where were they discharging her to? What does that mean? Discharge summary. Most responsible diagnosis. 1. Brain death secondary to overdose. Brain death secondary to murder, people. Okay? They have taken the word murder and they have flossed it over with the word overdose. Alright? It should say murder. By poisoning. Acute renal failure. Honestly, I don't know what renal is. I'll have to look it up. Aseismic hepatitis and failure. Acute respiratory distress syndrome. ShaMay Chorney, a 22-year-old female, postpartum, month 7. In other words, Amari was 7 months old. Was admitted to the ICU on April 11, 2018, following resuscitation, to resuscitate somebody. But she wasn't resuscitated, people. From a cardiac arrest at her home. She was last seen at 9 in the morning on April 11, 2018, in her usual state. No, that's not true. No, she was sleeping. And she was in the middle of a death rattle, which sounded like snoring. That is not being seen in her usual state. Do you see how misleading that is, people? I have to correct that. She was subsequently seen at 9:55 in cardiorespiratory arrest. No, she looked dead. She responded as if she was dead. And being that she urinated and defecated while sitting up at around 9, and then her body was moved between 9 and 9:10, and then left for 50 minutes, there was no cardiorespiratory casualty arrest. CPR was commenced by bystander family. It makes it sound like we were in a fucking shack with everybody just sitting around doing what people do, and then ShaMay went into overdose and the bystanders in the room just jumped. This is misleading. This is very misleading. There were no bystanders. EHS around her. Sorry. EHS, that's the Emergency Health Services, ambulance, around found her in PEA arrest. I don't know what PEA is. And subsequent 18 minutes was required until return of spontaneous circulation. So it says right there, she went 18 minutes before it was a spontaneous circulation. So I guess it boils down to how many times did you die that day, ShaMay? She did not re-enter into cardiorespiratory arrest. That's an opinion, because her heart was never started, people. Initial blood work demonstrated mild leukocytosis and elevated lactate, mixed respiratory and metabolic acidosis. Oh my God. Acidosis. Evidence for severe acute hepatitis transaminosis, approximately 8 something glucose 0.7, no osmolar gap, urine toxicology. I'm tired. Urine toxicology screen was positive for cocaine. Urine toxicology screen was positive for opiates, fentanyl, and cocaine. And then when the coroner called me, she tried to say she had morphine. But I guess that's what the opiate is. They just didn't list it down as a morphine. CT of her head suggested some gray-white loss of differentiation and some element of brain edema. That would be the swelling. They're not giving me her imageries from imaging records. I'm waiting. I'm going to go back and ask again. The patient was managed with targeted temperature regulation, ice caps, glucose monitoring, and control of fever. From cold to hot, from hot to cold, from cold to hot, from hot to cold. Over the subsequent following days, there was evidence for acute renal failure with the commencement of hemodialysis. There was acute hepatic dysfunction secondary to ischemic hepatitis, and I guess because their liver shut down, right? Supposedly. And vasopressor requirements for circulatory shock. Troponin peaked at 4. The patient was not demonstrating any neurologic responses. Subsequent CT brain images were consistent with severe cerebral edema and likely uncal herniation. As the patient was too unstable in which to complete a clinical neurologic determination of death, she underwent a nuclear medicine brain scan that showed absent perfusion to her brain consistent with brain death. Too unstable. Yeah. They were moving her jaw and it was ready to fall off. So they didn't want to move her around that much, people. They had her on manual therapy, which was as everything fell. The ICU team met the next of kin, the mother as well as siblings, and reviewed her current condition of brain death and multi-system organ failure. They understood that this was not compatible with any chance of survival, and life support would be withdrawn at timing that was discussed with them after visitation with friends and family. The family did not request consideration for organ donation. Did you hear that? The family did not request consideration for organ donation. That is a lie. This patient expired in the evening of April 19, 2018. Here they have it listed here. The report was written on the 20th. You can see. And they take it from, so they admitted her April 11th. They discharged her April 16th. They got it on her death certificate that she died on April 16th based on that brain scan. Right? But here they're listing it as April 19th. None of that makes sense, people. That's like CIBC Bank having a hold of holding ShaMay's trust fund after all these years of Uncle John being dead and ShaMay now being dead, hostage. Right? It requires Uncle John's signature to release it. When ShaMay wanted it, she couldn't get it. Right? Because of what Fraser Health Authority did and what CIBC Bank did. And then ShaMay got murdered. Right? We know that. And, you know, it's just still all up in the air, people. Same thing with Andre's little trust account. You know? Like, these people have no scruples. They really don't. This patient expired in the evening of April 19, 2018, after liberation from mechanical ventilation, as if somehow that ventilation was keeping her alive, which we all know is a bunch of crock. The family requested an autopsy. This is a coroner's case, and I had discussion with the coroner on call today with the case number, and then there's this long ass number right there, which I should write it down and put it into my lawsuit. And this was written by some dude from respirology. So I have to keep this one out because there's flaws in it. Big time. Right? I'm working on it. Let's see what this other one has to say. I'm tired though. I'm ready to fall asleep sitting up. Oh man. What's this one? Final report. Consultation. Date of consultation. April 11th. Consulting services. Emergency medicine. Written on April 12th. I think I read this one. Or something similar to it. This 22-year-old woman was brought in through emergency health services ambulance directly to the trauma room. She was seen on arrival. We have been previously notified that a 22-year-old post-cardiac arrest was coming to the emergency room. She had been found down, pulseless, at home by her partner. Right? I think this one we read. She had last been seen approximately 1 hour prior to being found. Here they did it again. Some bystanders. It makes it sound so random, as if you're like in a fucking shack or out on the streets. Some bystanders. Some bystander. CPR had been done. I'm the bystander, people. The call had been placed at around 9:57. And the crew arrived at 10:05. I got it in my head 10:10, but she was found to be pulseless. She said that twice. She was given 1 milligram of Epinephrine, Narcan 4 milligrams, and 250 milliliters bolus of normal saline. She returned to spontaneous circulation with a rapid atrial fibrillation. I have to look these things up. The only history we could find as well, this was certified by the police officer who attended the home and then came to the emergency room, was that she had just complained of some general malaise, like sickness, right? And a bit of nausea for the past few days. Just for 2. Monday and Tuesday. She is known to smoke marijuana. There's that big boogie marijuana man. They're poisoning people now with tobacco, eh? It's like you go buy a pack of cigarettes now, and it's like buying worse than native cigarettes. They're killing us off with poisonous tobacco now, and they're making us pay out of our nose for it. Because, you know, they're trying to make it sound like they care about your health, but the only reason they would care about your health is simply because they would want to harvest your organs. That would be the only reason. It's not because they care about your health, people. She is known to smoke marijuana. There is a history of possible cocaine use in the past. No drugs were found at the scene. There was nothing around her body, but the cops didn't go through the basement, so we found things buried under dressers and under beds and shit like that. But if the cops would have went through, you know, there would have been a high probability. They would have found the fentanyl. They would have found her shirt. For all we know, they probably would have found a fucking gun, you know? Or Julian's stash of money or something. More than nothing, because when they left, they walked out with nothing, people, because they didn't look. There was no evidence of any leftover pills. She does suffer from depression and apparently had been struggling with insomnia lately. She is prescribed Myertapine, a sleeping pill, I think it is. Myertapine. As mentioned, no empty pill bottles were seen. In other words, she didn't, try and commit suicide, right? Socially, she lives with her boyfriend. Flat out lie. And she lives in the family home. I believe her mother and sister live upstairs. No, been through this already. Tisha lives downstairs in her room. I live upstairs, but go through the house. She does have a past medical history of depression. There it is, right there, people. Because of a 24-year-old social worker who got out of school that wanted to apprehend her first child and decided that it was going to be Andre. And then proceeded to basically fuck over a family for over 2 years and then some. And I'm still struggling with Andre because of his personality being altered from that experience. She had a C-section in September of 2017. She has a 7-month-old baby boy. Pharmanet just shows Myertapine. So the only thing that she had filled was, I guess, her sleeping pills, just in case. Because the doctor gave them to her even when she was pregnant, and I told her, ShaMay, like, what kind of doctor do you have? Don't take them if you really don't need them. But she used to fight so much with Julian that she'd get upset, right? Her little brain thinking too much, right? So anyway, I'm assuming that's what that is. On exam, she had GCE of 3. She was intubated. Pupils were 4 millimeters and fixed. No evidence of any head trauma noted. That needs to be disputed because there's a bruise. You can see it. Chest, good air entry bilaterally. I don't know how that's possible because when I got to her, all those bubbles were coming up. So where did they come from? And then they tried to say with the autopsy after it was all said and done that she had mild pneumonia, right? She was intubated with a 7.5 millimeter tube, 23 millimeter at the teeth. Cardiovascular system. Heart sounds normal. Abdomen. Soft, non-tender. No guarding or rigid noted. Until after 9 p.m. CNS exam, flaccid paralysis in all 4 limbs with no purposeful movement at all. And that's because she was dead. A POCUS was done, which showed a possible dilated RV with very poor contractility. I'm tired, people. I don't even know how to pronounce this. Of the heart in general. ECG showing rapid arterial fibrillation with a prolonged QT of 514. Initial gases were pH of 6.7. PCO2, don't know what it means, of 6.8. PO2, don't know what it means, 171. And a bicarb of 12. White count of 14.6. Hemoglobin 111 point. Her lactic acid was 1.8. But this is all fabricated, people. I don't think you can get readings off a dead body, can you? Initially, I suspected a possible overdose. Possible myocarditis. In other words, she ate all her pills, right? Or massive pulmonary embolus. She was sent for a CT head and a CT pulmonary embolus study. CT head showed generalized cerebral edema. She did have some bilateral PEs, but the thrombus burden was not significant. No saddle embolus was noted. No saddle embolus was noted. The possibility still remained regarding possible OD. Urine tox screen was sent for toxicity, as well as labs sent for OD panel as well. She was significantly hypotensive on presentation with a blood pressure of about 50/30. Phenylephrine 200 mcg was given initially with no response, and then she was started on level-fed infusion at 30 to 40 mcg, which did improve her blood pressure to about 109/70. You can't bring back dead blood. She was then transferred to CT scan at that time. Chest x-ray does show pulmonary edema, likely genetic or negative pressure pulmonary edema from the CPR I guess that's because I breathed into her mouth, people, bubbles and all. And as I was breathing in, she wasn't breathing it out, but it was coming out. And then I'd breathe it back in, and then the air would just come out. I did that for a little while anyway. In the summary, this woman was found to be in full cardiac arrest with ROSC returning to an arterial fibrillation rhythm. She had been transferred now to the ICU under the care of Dr. Harry Barr. It's not Harry, people, it's Harinder. Neurologically, prognostication will be as per the ICU team, and full labs are still pending as well as her tox screen. Anyway, I just wanted to remind people